El Nino sea surface temperatures just hit 2.59 degrees above average, higher than 1997 at this exact same date. Wednesday, June 10th is the day I am most locked in on right now, with 5,000 joules of instability already building. In the Gulf, European ensemble runs are now showing 15 to 20 inches from a slow-moving tropical low next week. I have been on this El Nino data all week, and what I am seeing right now is unlike anything on record. Stay with me because at the 9-minute mark, I will show you why every climate model just raised its El Nino forecast. At the very end, I have the tropical timeline for next week that has the Gulf Coast firmly on my radar. This video covers 3 separate stories, and each one of them directly affects your life over the next 6 months. Here's where we stand on Saturday's severe weather threat and why the Great Lakes Corridor is the focus right now. Right now, a cold front is pressing south and east across Ohio, Pennsylvania, and into the northeast all day. Southeast Michigan, Ohio, and western Pennsylvania are under a slight risk, with a real tornado potential this afternoon. Because of that, the SPC is monitoring Cleveland, Akron, Pittsburgh, and Youngstown for a supercell tornado risk. Air quality alerts are in effect across Connecticut and parts of the Northeast as ozone levels spike in the pre-storm heat. Temperatures are sitting at 90 to 95 degrees ahead of this front, which loads the atmosphere with enormous energy today. That heat plus front combination is what creates the supercell structure capable of producing hail several inches in diameter. Wind gusts of 40 to 60 miles per hour are possible with any organized cell this afternoon, no joke at all. Margaret is a retired teacher in Cleveland who told me she has afternoon outdoor graduation plans and asked what to expect. Margaret, the graduation window before noon looks clear, but any outdoor plans after 2 o'clock need a solid indoor backup. Drop your city in the comments right now and tell me what the sky looks like outside your window this afternoon. I will be back tonight with a specific update for every city that checks in with me below. Here's the city-by-city timing for Saturday's severe weather so you know exactly when to watch your alerts. Earl drove through Cleveland this morning and said the sky already had that eerie yellow-green color by noon. Pittsburgh and Wheeling expect the strongest cells to arrive between 3 and 5 Saturday afternoon. Buffalo and Erie, your window is 4 to 6 this evening with damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour possible. New York City and Newark, the line arrives between 5 and 7 Saturday evening with heavy rain and gusty winds. Hartford, Providence, and Boston expect a line of storms with 60 mile per hour gusts between 8 and 10 Saturday night. For the Southern Plains, North Texas and Southern Oklahoma are watching a separate wind and hail threat Saturday afternoon. North Dakota and Montana, a third distinct storm track fires Saturday evening with a localized tornado threat there. Sunday brings that frontal system through the Delmarva Peninsula and Mid-Atlantic with heavy rain likely Sunday afternoon. And Monday through Thursday next week, the storm conveyor belt cranks back up with a major heat dome building behind it. Now here is where the weekend forecast takes a turn that the Central Plains and Ohio Valley really need to hear. Sunday's primary threat shifts away from severe wind and toward catastrophic flash flooding across the Central Plains. Precipitable water is loading at 1.75 inches in the atmosphere above the plains, which is abnormally high for early June. Slow-moving storm clusters training over the same location can dump 2 to 4 inches on the same street in 90 minutes. And that is why the WPC issued a slight risk for excessive rainfall across the Central Plains and Mississippi Valley. Southern Iowa and northern Missouri are my biggest concern zones because multiple rounds of storms stall over the same ground. Kansas City, Columbia, and Springfield, Missouri watch for overnight flooding as slow-moving cells train through your area. Urban areas in St. Louis, Des Moines, and Omaha are especially vulnerable because saturated ground cannot absorb more water. Turn around and do not drown applies this weekend because flooded roads can look passable even when they are deadly. Meanwhile, the heat that was baking the East Coast Saturday moves west toward California and the desert Southwest Sunday. Temperatures in the Southwest climb to 100 degrees plus Sunday as that mid-level ridge strengthens over the West Coast. Sandra is a retired nurse in Kansas City who asked me if Sunday's flooding risk was worth canceling her outdoor cookout. Sandra, move the cookout inside and stay off low-lying roads after dark because that is exactly when flash flooding peaks. Now let me talk about the heat dome building next week because these numbers are historic for the central United States. Amarillo and the Texas Panhandle track to 104 degrees on Monday, June 8th. That is a potential all-time June record. Des Moines, Omaha, and Kansas City are tracking 98 to 100 degrees by Tuesday, June 9th with heat index values above 105. Minneapolis, Madison, and Chicago reach upper 90s by Thursday, June 11th with dew points in the oppressive mid-70s. When dew points reach 75 degrees and temperatures hit 95, the heat index can exceed 115 degrees in direct sunlight. Those dew point readings come in part from corn crop evapotranspiration in Iowa and Illinois during peak growing season. Overnight low temperatures by midweek will barely drop below 75 degrees in Des Moines, making overnight recovery impossible. Now here's the part of the mid-June forecast that has my full attention, folks, and it has not gotten enough coverage. Wednesday, June 10th is shaping up as one of the more significant severe weather days of early summer, plain and simple. What drives it is a 985 millibar low tracking across the northern plains with 4,000 joules of instability in its path. Then right behind it, Arctic air from Canada begins pushing southward in a pattern that is genuinely unusual for June. Wednesday, June 10th, the SPC already has severe weather flagged from Minnesota through Wisconsin, Iowa, and Nebraska. That 985 millibar low is strong for summertime and will drive a significant wind shear corridor for supercell development. Snowfall is possible in the Cascades and Northern Rockies by Wednesday as that deep trough digs into the northwest. Then Thursday and Friday, the storm track shifts east toward Oklahoma, Illinois, Michigan, and the entire Great Lakes. What you're looking at is a rinse and repeat severe weather cycle literally every 24 to 36 hours through June 15th. What follows that system is even more unusual Arctic air pushing from Canada starting around June 12th. Air from the Arctic region pours south along the east coast, dropping temperatures there, while the Midwest stays brutal. That contrast between Arctic East Coast and heat dome Midwest is exactly the fuel that keeps firing these storm systems. If you live anywhere from Oklahoma to Michigan to the Great Lakes, the week of June 8th through 14th demands respect. Dale is a retired electrician in Minneapolis who asked whether the heat dome or the storms are the bigger risk. Dale, honest to goodness, both demand your attention, but Wednesday's tornado risk is the one to lock in on right now. Now here's the 9-minute promise I made you, and this is the El Nino update that has climate scientists buzzing. So here's the number that stopped me cold. Nino +2 just hit 2.59 degrees above average, warmer than 1997. To put that in context, the 1997 El Nino went on to become the most destructive climate event in the 20th century. That event peaked at 2.7 degrees, and we are already at 2.59 in early June, with 5 months of strengthening ahead. Let me walk through the numbers because they are stunning, and I want you to understand exactly what they mean. On top of that, the Nino 3.4 index sits at 1.4 degrees above average, already qualifying as a moderate El Nino. Below the surface, temperature anomalies as of May 30th are running 4 to 6 degrees above normal in the eastern Pacific. Pockets of subsurface water are running more than 7 degrees above normal, the fuel pipeline for this fall's peak. On top of all that, the Southern Oscillation Index sits at negative 17.33, more than twice the El Nino declaration threshold. In fact, yesterday's daily SOI reading hit negative 36, one of the lowest in the entire modern instrumental record. Here's what the European Model Ensemble Mean is now forecasting for the peak this winter, 3.8 degrees Celsius above average. Multiple individual ensemble members are showing 4 degrees plus, and nearly all members are above 3 degrees Celsius. For reference, the 2015 to 2016 El Nino peaked at 2.7 degrees and was called the El Nino of the century, which means the 3.8 degree forecast mean would be 40% stronger than 2015 on a peak anomaly basis. So here is the official probability breakdown right now. 100% chance of moderate El Nino, we are already there. 85% chance of strong El Nino by late fall, 70% chance of very strong, 40% chance of super, 20% chance this becomes a historic El Nino above 3 degrees Celsius, and that percentage was just raised. NOAA's model gives a 97% probability this El Nino will be a major one by late summer into fall. All climate models are now above the spring predictability barrier, and not one of them is backing off this forecast. This is a climate event with a non-zero chance of reaching uncharted El Nino magnitude, something not seen in recorded history. Let me translate all those numbers into what they actually mean for your weather over the next 6 to 12 months. California and the West Coast are tracking for a record-shattering wet winter with multiple atmospheric river events. Because of this, both the subtropical jet and the polar jet will be supercharged over the North Pacific all winter. Deep south and southeast, you are looking at above-average rainfall from December through March, potentially record-breaking. Florida could see its wettest December through February on record based on where the European seasonal forecast is sitting. Meanwhile, the northern tier from the upper Midwest through New England tracks for a mild and potentially dry winter. Atlantic hurricane season looks very suppressed. Below normal activity is likely with fewer than 6 named storms possible. And on the flip side, the Western Pacific typhoon season looks virtually guaranteed to be hyperactive this year. Indonesia, India, and Australia are already seeing the drought signal that always accompanies a strong El Nino event. Good Lord, Betty is a retired teacher in Sacramento who asked me whether the wet winter forecast means flooding risk. Betty, the answer is yes, the atmospheric river frequency is going to be much higher than normal this winter season. If you know someone in California, Florida, or the Deep South, share this video because their winter planning starts now. Drop your state in the comments and tell me which part of this El Nino forecast concerns you most right now. Now let me give you the end of video tropical promise because the Gulf timeline just tightened up on the latest models. The tropical storm Amanda is already active in the East Pacific and 2 more systems are forming right behind it today. What is fueling all of this is the Central American gyre, which is highly active and feeding moisture northward. By June 12th, both the European and GFS models show a separate low forming in the Gulf near the Yucatan Peninsula. Let me walk through what the models are showing because both the European and GFS agree on the general outline. Specifically, the European shows the Gulf low forming around June 12th and slowly intensifying as it drifts north. And the GFS independently shows the same low forming Friday, June 12th near the Keys and tracking towards South Florida. Here is what makes both models unusually concerning. The system barely moves for several days after it forms. Because it moves so slowly, that tropical low over warm Gulf water can produce 15 to 20 inches of rainfall locally. That rainfall total is not hypothetical. The European ensemble mean is actually showing that range for coastal Louisiana. Under the GFS scenario, a sub-1008 millibar low brushes the Florida Keys by late June 12th into the 13th. If that GFS scenario verifies, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and coastal Georgia all need to watch closely. The Eastern Pacific systems near Mexico are also dumping heavy rain on World Cup venues in Mexico City right now. Gulf sea surface temperatures are running 2 to 3 degrees above normal, giving any system a warm fuel source. Both the European AI and GFS AI models are independently showing tropical development that cross-model agreement matters. Bob is a retired electrician in New Orleans who told me he checks the Gulf water temperature buoys every single morning. Bob, mark my words, if that June 12th signal holds, you want your emergency kit fully stocked before the weekend. Gulf Coast and Southeast, drop your city below, and I will flag you the moment this tropical signal firms up. If you're in Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, or Alabama, this is the week to review your family emergency plan. Before I close, let me also flag the critical fire weather risk that is not getting enough attention right now. The SPC issued a critical fire weather risk for Las Vegas, southern Utah, and northern Arizona for Saturday and Sunday. Open burning is not recommended anywhere across the desert Southwest this weekend. Wildfires spread extremely fast. If you live in southern Nevada, southern Utah, or northern Arizona, have your evacuation plan ready before tonight. Here's your flat-out simple action list for all 5 separate threats on the board right now today. Great Lakes and Ohio Valley today. Severe weather is active with tornado potential in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Akron. Know your shelter before 2 o'clock and make sure your weather alerts are on because supercells move fast and rotate. Central Plains Sunday, flash flooding is the threat. Stay off low-lying roads after dark and turn around if you see water. Midwest and Central Plains Monday through Thursday, a dangerous heat dome builds with heat index values above 110. Everyone over 65 in Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri needs a cooling plan before Tuesday arrives. No exceptions. Gulf Coast from Texas to Florida. Watch the June 12th tropical signal closely and review your emergency kit now. Desert Southwest, critical fire weather risk is in effect through Sunday, so no open burning under any circumstances. And for everyone in California, the Deep South and the Southeast, the El Nino winter forecast starts mattering today. Let me explain what a supercell actually is because understanding it tells you why tonight requires your attention. A supercell is a rotating thunderstorm that organizes around a mesocyclone, essentially a spinning column of air. That rotation is what separates a supercell from a regular thunderstorm and what makes it capable of producing large tornadoes. The overshooting top you see on radar is the storm's updraft punching through the top of the atmosphere at 60,000 feet. That rotation produces a wall cloud at the updraft base. The lowering that precedes tornado formation by 20 minutes. If you see a wall cloud rotating and lowering, get to your shelter immediately, not in 5 minutes. Now, before we leave Saturday's setup, let me flag something that is not getting enough attention, the air quality picture. Connecticut issued an air quality alert with ozone levels reaching the unhealthy range before today's storms even arrive. When temperatures hit 92 degrees with light winds, ground level ozone from traffic and industry can spike above 150 AQI. For anyone over 65 with asthma or heart disease, spending more than 1 hour outdoors today carries real health risk. Philadelphia and New York hit record high temperatures in the mid-90s this morning before the cold front passes through. Let me give you the historical context for Sunday's flooding setup because this pattern has clear analogs. The June 2008 Iowa floods were triggered by the exact same mechanism, slow training storms over saturated ground. In that event, Cedar Rapids received 11 inches in 48 hours and the Cedar River crested 11 feet above its previous record. We are not forecasting that scale, but the atmospheric setup of stalling storms and 1.75-inch precipitable water is identical. The big difference Sunday is that the soil is drier than 2008, but urban drainage is every bit as vulnerable. Low water crossings in Kansas City, St. Louis, and Memphis can become impassable within minutes of a heavy rainfall core. If you live near any creek, culvert, or low-lying road in that corridor, have a plan to move quickly on Sunday night. Now let me go deeper on the heat dome because the health and agricultural stakes next week are serious. Heat is the #1 weather-related killer in the United States, claiming more lives annually than tornadoes and floods combined. When dew points hit 75 degrees and temperatures reach 98, heat stroke can develop in healthy adults in under 30 minutes. Seniors over 65 lose the ability to regulate body temperature efficiently, a process that begins declining after age 60. If you know an elderly neighbor in Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, or Missouri, check on them every day from Tuesday through Friday. The corn crop evapotranspiration adding moisture to the atmosphere is actually amplifying the dew point readings this week. Iowa and Illinois cornfields are transpiring moisture at peak summer rate, adding 2 to 3 degrees to local dew points. When overnight lows stay above 75 degrees, the body never fully recovers. That is the most dangerous part of all. To put Wednesday's potential into context, the last time a June low this deep tracked across the northern plains was 2011. The June 2011 outbreak produced 154 tornadoes in a single week across the same northern plains and upper Midwest corridor. A 985 millibar June low is roughly equivalent to a strong November system out of season and out of the ordinary. 4 consecutive European runs have shown this low at 985 millibars or below. That 4-day consistency is a real signal. The key variable is whether that low tracks through the United States or stays just north in Canada along the border. If it tracks even 50 miles further south than currently forecast, the tornado threat shifts dramatically into Minnesota. Let me explain the Walker circulation because it is the engine behind everything this El Nino is doing to global weather. Normally, the Walker circulation drives warm, moist air from east to west along the equatorial Pacific that is the baseline. During El Nino, that circulation weakens or reverses, allowing warm water to pile up in the central and eastern Pacific. When the Southern Oscillation Index hits -17, it means the Walker circulation has nearly collapsed entirely. A -36 daily SOI reading like we saw yesterday means the circulation may actually be running backwards. That reversal of the world's primary equatorial wind pattern is what triggers the extreme downstream weather effects. Every place on Earth that depends on that normal circulation, India's monsoon, Indonesia's rainfall, Australia's crops, is already feeling it. Let me get even more specific on what this El Nino means region by region for the fall and winter ahead. Pacific Northwest, you are set up for one of the wettest and coldest winters on record from October through March. Seattle and Portland should expect persistent atmospheric river events with flooding risk in low-lying river valleys. Southern California from Los Angeles to San Diego is tracking for its second 200% of normal rain year in 3 years. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia are looking at a very wet December through February pattern. The southeast drought we are watching right now could be completely erased by the wet El Nino winter pattern. For the Great Plains, the winter pattern is mixed warmer than normal in the northern tier, wetter in the southern tier. Here is the El Nino nuance on the tropical picture that most forecasters are glossing over right now. El Nino normally suppresses the deep Atlantic by increasing upper wind shear that tears apart developing storms. But that same El Nino pattern actually energizes the East Pacific, which is exactly what we are watching right now. Tropical storm Amanda, already active in the East Pacific, is the direct result of El Nino warming those waters. 2 more systems behind Amanda are forming near Mexico. Both have 70 to 80% development chances this weekend. Those East Pacific systems are already dumping heavy rain on the World Cup host city of Mexico City and surrounding terrain. And the moisture from all of that activity is being funneled northward directly into the Gulf of Mexico right now. Let me go deeper on the fire weather risk because the desert Southwest setup this weekend is genuinely dangerous. The combination of 107-degree heat in Las Vegas, single-digit humidity, and 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts is extreme. Critical fire weather conditions mean a single spark from a vehicle cigarette or power line can ignite instantly. Once fire spreads in this environment, it can move faster than a running pace that is not an exaggeration. Southern Nevada, southern Utah, and northern Arizona residents need to know their evacuation routes before tonight. Bonnie is a retired nurse in Pensacola who told me her hurricane kit has been stocked and ready since April 1st. Bonnie, that kind of preparation is exactly right, and every Gulf Coast family needs to follow that same playbook now. Here's the bottom line I want to leave you with, tying directly back to the three opening numbers. 2.59 degrees El Nino in June, warmer than 1997 at this date, and 5 more months of strengthening ahead. 5,000 joules of instability on Wednesday, the kind of number that produces multiple tornadoes in the northern plains. 15 to 20 Gulf inches in the European ensemble, what a slow tropical low can do to the Gulf Coast. All three of those numbers are moving in the same direction, and none of them have reached their peak yet this season. The folks who come through active stretches like this are the ones who are locked and loaded before things start moving. Drop your city in the comments, tell me what you see outside right now, and I will get back to you tonight. Stay safe, stay smart, take care of the people around you, God bless, and we will see you in the next update.